Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Today we're talking about bird watching, the hobby of bird watching, because many of you started, so many of us, with just getting interested in birds because of what's coming to your feeders and what's in your backyard. And as that hobby grows and you start seeing or maybe watching my channel or just doing internet research or picking up books here and there, and you hear people talking about all these other wonderful birds that are out there, you start thinking, "Oh my, I want to go see some of these really beautiful birds. I want to get out," and so you start expanding your bird watching interest, and you're a hobbyist. So, what are some of the mistakes that people make that maybe can discourage them or turn them off? If they don't do so little proper planning, and it can or can really enhance your bird watching experience. So I thought I would address some of the most common mistakes and maybe some of the ways that you can really become a better bird watcher. So first off, let's talk about the clock. What? The clock? Let's see. Here we go. Don't sleep too late. If you want to find birds, remember, birds are most active at really right after sunrise. The first couple of hours of the morning are their most active period because they've slept all night, and they're going to start in the morning by marking their territory. Males sing around the edges of their territories to set their boundaries, and so the other birds, the males know that that's their territory not to come in, or their mate attraction. Now, in the dead of winter, you don't get nearly as much song, but you in like this scene in winter, you get birds that have been migrating during the night, and they're coming and landing on the lake during the day. So morning is always a really, really good time for birding. Evening is good as well. During the heat of the day, it maybe not as well. So don't sleep too late is my rule number one to make yourself a better bird watcher. The second I have, and this is an old one, and I this picture really illustrates it. My rule of thumb is bird. If you really want to find birds, if you really are out looking and you really want to find them, you have to be quiet, and you have to move through the environment in an unthreatening manner to the birds. And what the old sayings that I've used for years is bird in groups of two or less. And this is an example of that. Now, yes, we do bird hikes, and I have 12, 15, 20 people on my hikes at times. And we find birds, but would we have found more if we'd have been very, very quiet and we that it had a smaller group? Likely so. The birds are going to move away from disturbing noises, and they're going to get quiet to hide and things like that whenever there is a lot of noise in a group. And when you have a group of people, you're going to get talking. There's just no way you're not going to. And of course, on my bird hikes, I do a lot of explaining, so I'm talking to try to explain why what we're seeing, et cetera, and that type of thing. So, but if you really want to find birds, remember that the first one, don't sleep late. Number two is be quiet and bird in small groups rather than large, noisy groups. Another of those, when I talk about moving through in their environment, their habitat unobtrusively, when we talk about walking slowly, but there's an old book called Real Birders Don't Wear White. And what that illustrates is, of course, if you're brightly colored in your clothing and you're out there, then you stand out. And it's much better to blend in with the woods you're in, the habitat you're in. So neutral colors are far better as a bird watcher when you're out there in the environment. This is true of all wildlife. Rabbits and deer and everything else, as well as birds. So don't wear bright colors. One of the stories I tell is years ago, I leading a trip up in the Rocky Mountain National Forest at Rocky Mountain National Park. And I had a group of about 15 people. And the morning, I think the first morning we were there, we were getting ready to go out for the day. And it was really early, and everybody was coming out to get into our van. And one of my friends that was on the trip walked out, and she had on what looked like a Hawaiian hula colored outfit. It's bright reds and yellows and oranges. And here we were in the Rocky Mountains, and I made her go change her clothes. And then it may sound bad, but it's true. You don't want to be to stand out when you're trying to find birds and observe wildlife like that. So it is a rule of thumb. Dress in neutral colors will really, really help you. Now, the next part of all that is, remember, patience is key. When you're out, I always joke about birdwatcher groups. We bird at a speed of about 0.0002 miles per hour. I mean, we walk very slowly, and we have to be patient. And you're looking for movement, but you're also listening for sound. And while you might not know the bird songs, birds will alert you to their presence. So it helps to know where they're located by the sound they're. So another rule of thumb is learn as many bird songs as you can. Now, this doesn't mean you have to learn 3,000 of them, especially when you're just starting. If you learn those birds in your backyard, learn what a cardinal sounds like, learn what a blue jay sounds like, learn what a chickadee sounds like, a tufted titmouse, the downy woodpeckers. You just learn the basic birds of your backyard, so that when you do expand and you do go for hikes and you do get out into the woodlands and the prairies and the lakes, and you're walking along and you're hearing the cardinals and you're hearing a blue jay and you're hearing a downy woodpecker, you'll write that down, you'll document them, and if you want to try to look at one, you can. But for most part, bird watchers begin to those become background noise, because what you're really looking for are what is different and what you don't know. And so when you're hearing cardinal, chickadee, a sound that you don't recognize, that's what you concentrate on, and that's what you look for, is that bird song. Like this black-throated green warbler goes zee, zee. It really sounds different from any other bird that sings in your backyard. So once you learn those basic bird songs, then you start listening for what's different out there, and that will lead you to some of those new birds on your list. Now, a good friend of mine who joins us on lives every once in a while, one of my bird watchers that when I first moved here to Missouri, paid me a huge compliment one time. He said he had moved and he wasn't birding in our area anymore, and he found a really good bird down in Wichita area, and the people he was birding with said, "How did you know that?" And he said, "Well, the guy who mentored me taught me to be ready for birds like that." And I really do believe in planning. And I do believe in doing my research ahead of time. So one of the things that, I'll put this back up here, get the full camera, is research. Be prepared. Once you really start enjoying birds and you want to find new birds, you do things like buying books of your area that have been compiled for years, or use eBird, the computer program, and you bring up checklist of birds recent in the area you're going to, and see what they've been seeing, other birders who are usually more experienced than you and seeing there, and they're a good thing to prepare for. When I take my trips, I always calculate a target list. So again, going down on the cruise, I had a target list of birds, and I saw 19 of those birds that I had targeted down there. And that, I was prepared. I knew kind of what they looked like. I knew the body shape. So I try to prepare. Now, I know that's more advanced, but whenever you're talking about in your area, things like that you don't see at your feeders every day, like indigo buntings, you'll realize how common they are once you start bird watching and going afield, and you find them in the field, and once you learn their song, then you really realize how common they are. And people are like, "Oh, I wish I could see those rose-breasted grosbeaks all the time. They only come through in the spring." Well, they're likely nesting near you, and you find out more about their habitat preferences, and you go out and you hear them singing, or you find them in the trees, and it's rewarding. It truly, truly is. All right, there it is. Learn to use your binoculars properly. I have so many people that get frustrated. They say, well, I just can't get those binoculars to work for me. And I said, their eyes, it's black in one eye and I can't see anything out of the good. Well, when you when you're using binoculars, you have to practice. And you notice that all these folks, of course, are holding them right up to their eyes. But learn simple things. And I'm going to put this back up here. Is okay. Simple things with binoculars, like the eye cups. I twisted up those eye cups on there. See how they're raised there? Well, if you don't wear glasses, then you should have your eye cups raised. If you're wearing glasses, you should have your eye cups down because you hold them right against your eyes, your glasses, and that gives you the right distance. And then you squeeze the binoculars in and out and get that interocular distance. And that's where most people go wrong when they say, oh, I'm getting black in one eyepiece. I can't get an image in two. That's usually because you don't have that interocular distance right. And so you have to squeeze them back and forth. And when you're looking through the binoculars until you have one image, not two images, you should have one image when you got that right. So that, and then your field of view will be better if you use your eye cups right, which means you get a wider field of view and you can find birds. And then probably the most important thing about using binoculars that I find new people make mistakes with is they're out there in the woods and they hear a bird and they get turned to it and they want to put their binoculars up and go like this, look all over to look for it. You can't find the bird that way. It'll be total accident if you do. What you have to do is find the bird, zero in on it, and you see it jumping around or maybe one leaf to leaf or up on the trunk of the tree. You keep your eyes on that bird and then you move your binoculars between you and the bird so that your images, you don't. Now, can the bird have moved a little bit? Yes, but it's a much more efficient way of finding birds than zipping them around. And then a little bit more advanced, don't forget that good binoculars, most binoculars, you can individually focus the eyes. So if one eye is stronger than the other, you can do that. The right diopter is generally the one that you can fine tune. So you can gross focus with the focus wheel on top, right up here, and looking through, close the right eye, focus and your object, and then open your right eye, and then you can twist this up on the binocular so that it fine tunes and you should get both images to be crystal clear. So learning to use binoculars properly is a huge thing when you're becoming a bird watcher and you're really getting interested in it. And then when we talked about one of the things that you'll gradually learn, and this is part of the planning process, is that you'll begin to learn to read the habitat. And that is wherever you're going birding, you're going to go out and you're going to be in different locations. And this is at a very shallow wetland area here in Kansas City. And the habitat is very different than in a thick forested area or a grassland or prairie or a big open deep lake. You'll learn to read that habitat and you'll learn that what I'm going to look for in these locations. You're not looking for scarlet tanagers out in the middle of a wetland like this, big open water, or you're not going to look for a common loon in the middle of the forest. So you begin to associate birds with habitat types, and that's getting into bird watching and that planning process that will help you become a better bird watcher. So I hope this helps. You picked up on a few tips, and one of my goals have always been to get my folks to move out from the backyard and explore the world outside your backyard, because you may have 20, 30 birds in your backyard species, but like in Missouri, we've have over 300 birds documented in Missouri, and then you're talking about 900 in North America, and then you're talking about 10,000 in the world. There's so many birds to go get out there and discover. Be around people that know birds. Get involved with a group if you can, that you can go out with more experienced bird watchers than you, because you will absorb tons of knowledge. I mean, my bird hikes, I always have people that have come all the time, some that have been just getting started, and true beginners that come on the hike. And believe me, the more experienced bird watchers love helping the beginners because they were there too. They know that it takes a while, and hopefully, it helps support you and confirm identifications and sounds and things like that. So be a better bird watcher. You think you'll love it. So it's a great idea for a program. If you like the program, please give us a like, give us a share. If you hadn't subscribed yet on YouTube, please do, and ring the bell so you know whenever I'm going to be on next. Until next time, let's talk birds.